Hello, welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Shout About It with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Now, did you watch The Devil's Chord? Because I did, and I certainly have some opinions on it. We'll get into that in just a moment. So, a little disclaimer here, it is absolutely okay if you liked The Devil's Chord. In actual fact, if you like The Devil's Chord, please do comment below and tell me exactly why you liked it. And also, please do remember that I am also allowed to have an opinion for not liking it as well. So, originally, I scored The Devil's Chord 3 out of 10, but I have to say, I think it's probably lower than that for me. It wasn't my cup of tea. However, I must say that conceptually, I like the idea. Music without the Beatles never potentially existing, that kind of thing. What is that like? I do like that idea, and I felt like it is certainly an idea that can be explored within Doctor Who. So overall, conceptually, it was absolutely fine in that regards. The idea behind it, I think, is actually potentially a strong one. And had this been written by an earlier RTD, it may have been a darn sight better than what we got. And that's obviously my opinion. You can disagree with that, and that is absolutely fine. And let me know below why you think that this episode worked. So I'll talk about a couple of the bits that I liked, and then I will talk about the bits that I didn't like, and I will, of course, talk about Jinx as well, because a lot of people have asked me about Jinx, so I will give my opinion. So I'm not talking about Jinx straight away, but here she is on the screen, and this is her early introduction. And I'm talking about the concept of the maestro here. So, the maestro, the idea behind this character is actually, in my opinion, a really, really good one. I like the idea of someone taking music, eating it for whatever want you want to say, however you want to say it, and actually making people's lives a living hell and trapping them inside instruments. I really like that. That is something that is potentially a very scary thing, and you're taking everyday inanimate objects and using them as a weapon. And that is something that kids could easily fear on the screen. So the concept behind Maestro, I really, really liked. Also, the introduction of them very early on in the episode was one of my favorite introductions to an antagonist in a very long time in Doctor Who. So conceptually, the Maestro, I think, is a great character conceptually. And I'm also quite pleased about something because my theory is that the Maestro was going to be summoned with the Devil's Chord and appear from the piano. So I got that right. I'm very pleased with myself. Pat on the back, go me. I also like the idea of Maestro being the child of the toy maker. I do like that. It adds a bit more depth to the toy maker. Obviously, that's going to have varied opinions. I understand that, and that is also absolutely fine. The idea behind the pantheon of the gods, I know I did a video of this. I'm not entirely sure yet how I feel about that in a fantasy element. I know Doctor Who want to do more fantasy, and I am aware that they've done fantasy in the past. I'm just not entirely sure about how I feel. However, it looks like there is a possibility that Sutek is returning. And I say that because of my theory behind the pantheon of the gods and the Osirians and things like that. I loved the costume design in this episode. I think these outfits really suit these two. I liked everything about it. It was some of my favorite aspects, the costume design for this episode, actually. Whether or not it's the right sort of time period, I was speaking to someone and it said it was slightly out years-wise, but to be honest with you, it's okay. I really liked the costume design in this. This was not my favorite thing, okay, but there are two people that show up in this dance routine that I absolutely performatively wise adore. Shirley Ballas and Johannes Redderberg. Love them. And I'm not a big fan of stunt casting, but with my, thoughts on the episode, literally those 2 appearing just made it a bit better for me. Now let's address some, issues that I have. Let's start out with this one, the Beatles. I actually think you had a really great opportunity here to really powerhouse the Beatles here and use them really, really well. But unfortunately, they were underutilized, and I just felt you missed a really golden opportunity of somehow trapping the Beatles into these musical instruments and putting the whole timeline into massive jeopardy, more than what we've actually got already on the screen, and have the Doctor save them. But it didn't happen. In actual fact, the Doctor, once again, was in peril and was saved by somebody else. And to be honest with you, the Doctor is supposed to be a hero. I would rather have had the Doctor save the Beatles, have it the other way around. But they did it the way that they did it, and the Beatles just didn't get enough screen time. I didn't like the piano playing that was done in here, but that's just me, I guess, being a prude. It just added unnecessary filler for me personally. It's just a personal thing. And I think that you could have just got the maestro out of the piano a lot sooner. The story here is more important. I know what they were trying to do, and it just didn't do it for me. They were trying to make, "Oh, this is happy, everybody's remembering music." No, the threat is the maestro. So, deal with the threat. Have that devil's call play, get the maestro back into action, and there you should have a great, great plot. In this scene as well, just before this, they're talking about Susan. Now, if you don't know who Susan is the granddaughter of the Doctor, which was obviously explained here. Now, I'm not sure if it was the writing or if it was the acting or if it was the directing, but the way that was handled and in the performance, I felt like it was more of a throwaway than anything else. And certainly when Ruby starts questioning the Doctor about it, there was certainly major deflection. Now, I'm hoping that's just part of the storyline, the Doctor not wanting to talk about it. However, there is a theory that Susan is returning, so maybe, maybe it was just played that way for that reason. And Ruby is going to find out that the Doctor lied about that and that she is still alive. I also feel that the relationship between the Doctor and Millie has not actually progressed. Something is not translating through onto the screen. And I don't know, like I say, if it's writing, acting, directorial, something is just not coming through. It's implied at the beginning of the episode that these 2 have been traveling with each other for a little while, be it a few days, maybe a couple of weeks. They've had a costume change. So clearly, there is some, things going on between them at this point. You would have thought that the relationship would have got better. But 3 episodes in, and I just feel like it has remained the same and it's not progressed, and I don't know what's going on there. And it may change in a future episode, and I'm hoping that it does. But I haven't seen much of a development in their relationship. Earlier on in the episode, the maestro talks about being the toy maker's child, and they talk about the toy maker and how the toy maker likes to play fair, which he does, and that Maestro wasn't really playing fair. Now, here's the thing. In this very scene, the Maestro tells the Doctor that the way to defeat them is by playing a chord, and that the Doctor will never get this chord. And essentially, what that does is that just sort of like goes, well, we know how it's going to work now, and we're only, what, 20 minutes, 25 minutes in? So we know what the Doctor, maybe even more than that, so we know what the Doctor needs to do. Well, we know how the Doctor's going to solve it now. And I just felt like that should have been written differently, give the Doctor more jeopardy, give the Doctor more intelligence-wise to solve. I think that's what should have happened there. I wasn't so bothered about the music off, that was okay. I accepted that for what it was. I like I say, I like the concept of the maestro, so, the music off was fine. However, it ended way too quickly because they wanted to do a dance number and a song that had no purpose within the story. What they should have been focusing on at this point was how to defeat the maestro. It's literally like, what, 3 minutes of singing and dancing. It added absolutely nothing. Of course, if it felt like to me it was a Disney Pixar. That's what it felt like to me. But of course, if you liked it, that is absolutely fine. It's just I didn't take to it. I really didn't. And I have a degree in musical theatre as well, so it's really difficult for me to say something like that. Pronoun pleasing. This added absolutely nothing to the plot. It's them. It's them. Who me. Whatever was going on in that bit. It jarred it very quickly. It in my opinion, it dated it too, but that's just my opinion. And to be quite frank, if you're going to have a non-binary person in this, just integrate them naturally. And here's the thing about this actually that I noticed. They did that little thing, that little sequence there set in 1925, and they didn't actually ever come back to it. The maestro was always referred to as the maestro. They didn't use they didn't use them. So they didn't remain consistent. And I'm just not a fan of people policing pronouns. And if that makes me transphobic, then that's fine. If that makes me a bigot, that's also fine. Another brief thing that I didn't like about this episode was the breaking of the 4/4. Is that becoming a thing now? It just offsets me a little bit. It's like, oh, hello. The maestro was written for Jinx Monsoon. Let's talk about Jinx Monsoon. I know people have asked me about this, so I will answer. Obviously, I'm a professional actress. I won't say that Jinx is bad. I won't say that she was one-dimensional. She certainly wasn't one-dimensional, that's for sure. I think she came in with a stonking amount of energy, and boy, oh boy, she can sing. The thing about energy is one thing that producers, directors, and other actors really like. Because if you come in and you attack something with a great deal of energy, then that's great because it is easier to pull something like that back than it is to ask her to bring more energy to the table. So she came in with that energy. However, it wasn't pulled back energy. And the problem is with that is then that becomes upstaging with the star of the show. Whether you like him or not, Shruti Gatwa is the star of the show. So it upstages him, it even upstaged Millie. And now you could say that is a fault of Jinx. However, I would say that Jinx's experience is predominantly stage. So she's very used to performing for the stage. So she's got no experience with acting for screen, if you know what I mean. I know she's done RuPaul's Drag Race, and I understand that. And it is a little bit different, I think, for RuPaul's Drag Race. But when you're acting for screen, you need to make it smaller. And she may not have noticed that she was doing it. And actors, especially in the early days of acting, don't generally notice that they are doing it. So it then becomes the director's responsibility to help her pull that back and mold her performance into a more palpable, not palpable, sorry, that's the wrong word, but a more effective performance that doesn't upstage the show. In actual fact, probably matches the same level, I would say. I think that's probably the best way to look at it. And I think what she needed to do was obviously because she's an antagonist, she had that elevated status already, which an antagonist generally always comes with. I think she needed to sit down and look at it and say, right, how am I going to actually get to there? How am I going to do this? Ask herself this bit, method it, essentially, method it. Now, she may or may not have known at this point who the overarching one who waits baddie is going to be. So she might not have known that. So, and that does happen. So that could have potentially also affected her performance as well. So the question remains, though, I guess you could say, as to whether or not I actually think the maestro should have been played by a drag queen or being played by a woman. And in this regards, I actually feel like the maestro should have been played by a woman. The way the role is written, it is cunning, it is wily, it is clever, and women can do that. And we can do it in many, many dimensional ways. I'm not saying overall that Jinx has done a terrible performance. I'm not saying that because I won't say that because I'm an actress. I just feel like a woman would have been better. So, yes, I do think this was a miscast. That doesn't mean to say that Jinx is a terrible performer, but you are more than welcome, of course, to disagree with me on that. So, there you go. That's what I think of The Devil's Chord. Conceptually, great, but it does need a lot of work. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment below, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.